everybody. This is Stephen A. Jones for When the Ancients Speak, and today we're going to discuss several interesting topics. The very first one, of course, is going to be the truth that we are spirits in the material world, especially in the third dimension. Fourth dimension, we are a little bit lighter in the loafers, if you know what I mean, as far as like we're not as grounded, not as solid. And when you pass into the spirit realm, you will have an opportunity to determine your direction and to continue your ascension process. But we wanted to talk about Tartaria for a minute, and also the connection from Tartaria to the things that are going on now, and to the reason why we went from analog to digital as far as television, television, and the whole purpose behind the scrying windows that are in your home that are referred to as television. And we'll get into that now. But I'm going to introduce Victoria here, and she's got a few things to say if we can take her away from the computer long enough. She's constantly trying to update things for you guys and gals out there so that when the time comes, you can get this information a little bit more readily that is necessary and available for your own ascension.
I have some images. I think I put this in a quick update the other day, that I have some images I want to share with you about the photographs that were done in 1870, where people would actually go into photography studios, and not only would they have their photographs done, I think they're like the old Daguerrean type photographs, but there was also a contraption in the studio that people could connect to see their loved ones that have passed on. Because in 1870 we had far more technology and advancements than what we actually do now. We've actually reverted back to the time of nuclear technology. But
yeah, I mean, things look sleeker now. They're a little bit more mainstream. They look more Star Trek-like, because that is the future we're going to. But the fact of the matter is, these people could manifest the souls of past loved ones who would then commune through these devices.
Yeah.
And this was more of a technical way of doing this. Further back in history, of course, you had the oracles of Delphi and other beings that could actually manifest spirits before them. And this was always considered a bad thing. And in some cases, of course, it can be a bad thing, depending on the kind of spirit you want to manifest.
yeah, and you have to be careful of that. In order to understand who and what you're communicating with, you must test the source. You must test the energy that is communicating with you. Ask it questions, stand up to it, do not be afraid of what it comes and does, but when it knows that it's limited by the kind of verbiage you give back to it, you have the control over that energy.
Yeah, and hi Roy, this is Charles, and I just want to let you guys know that for many years, darker spirits have tried to find ways, portals. This is kind of what CERN is all about.
Yeah.
But they wanted to switch over because when they created the new versions of television, and you've seen images from Tartaria, that the very design of television is an inverted part of, say, perhaps a large cathedral, and the design is very similar to that of the original cathode ray tube that was used in televisions to generate this kind of image and create a picture. Now, the same thing is done to you spiritually when you go into these temples, into these big cathedrals. They were designed to harvest the spirit energy from you, especially when you began to worship, because worship energy is among the strongest of what we refer to as loosh. And this is the energy that these beings feed on that makes them more powerful and be able to control more people.
And there's still people out there who are defending their religion. And I guess that's something at the point where we learn what deception that was. Because for those of you who can't let go of that, it's going to hurt you more than help you in the end. Those religious factions were put together to loosh off you, to control your energy, to control your minds.
Yeah,
and
legion, reestablish legion and control over you. When you look into the root meanings of some of these words, it'll blow your mind, like government. Basically, to control the mind. That's what the word means, to govern your mind. MENT refers to, the mind, the way you think. And it's amazing that people really haven't picked up on this, and that television also does the same thing. And there are many, many studies that show this. Okay, that television was created to put you into a suspended state, a hypnosis almost. And now that we have digital television, okay, spiritual powers can move through televisions. Remember Poltergeist?
Yeah.
Hell, they were figuring out how to do it with analog, so finally they said, you know what, we need an upgrade. We need the ability to be able to leap into devices, to control people's minds, and then vanish before they realize what's going on. This is a war, people, and that device that is on the wall may have many benefits to it. You may be able to watch some really cool shows, but you have to protect yourself. And this all ties into the original Tartarian designs that were actually the first form of motion pictures, if you want to call it that. But they were actually tapping into other dimensions, and they opened up small portals that will allow these beings to look through and talk to you. Now, they weren't always nice creatures that came to the portals that opened. I think of the movie Doom, if you actually want to understand what they're trying to do. And if you're curious as to the research and what they're doing, go watch the movie Doom and see what happens. It's not a very pretty picture.
From what we understand, the Russians are coming out and saying that there are...
It's actual news.
Yeah.
This is actual news. The Russians have been broadcasting this. And we just saw some of this news that was put up, but we knew this since the beginning. We told you about the zombie apocalypse. We know a lot of you laughed at us about this, and that's just fine. Laugh away. But in the meantime, this shit is real, people. They are actually planning a full zombie apocalypse, a World War Z scenario. And they've been warning people for years and years because they're trying to feed off of the energy of all these people understanding, The Walking Dead, all the series and things like that. That is a cakewalk compared to what they got planned for you. It's going to be more like the Bird Box, really, if you think about it.
The CDC put out posters 6 years back about the zombie apocalypse. I mean, come on. The
and people
CDC?
thought what are you talking about? Zombies, they're not real. Yeah, vampires aren't real, right, Vlad? Well, yeah. Vladimir was an actual living vampire at one point.
Yes, he was.
He's not that way now. He's a very nice being. He has a heart of gold, and everyone loves him. But he still looks like a Nosferatu because that's what he identifies as. He identified that. But we're here to tell you this whole identification thing. I identify as this. I identify as that. That's because these spiritual beings want to be able to manifest anything. So that when you begin to believe that you can identify as something, sooner or later some kind of negative force will be able to overwrite your intellect and control you as that being because you are rejecting your contract with Father. And that's what happens to you. But hey, don't believe me. Just look around. Look at all the people that are demonically possessed right now. It's not that hard to find proof of this. And it all ties back to this connective power of connecting to darker beings, darker realms, and spirit realms where these beings can reach through these portals, reach through different types of digital power, and physically control you. And yes, it's about to happen, the zombie apocalypse. You better start watching The Walking Dead and taking notes, people. Okay, because how to survive, what you're going to have to do, all the movies telling you, hey, listen, don't forget to double tap the head and all that other stuff. My goodness, it's almost here, and it's starting to happen.
Yeah, you got a sword in your house? You might need one.
Yeah, the katana worked really well and all the... I mean, in Walking Dead, remember the chick?
Well, she had it right.
Yeah, she did have it right.
She cut off the bottom jaw and the hands.
Yeah, I mean, she had two of them chained to her. They used to be family members. She's like, well... And their presence nullified the fact that she was a living being and she could hide amongst them.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what these beings are doing on YouTube when they're trying to garnish your attention, is they want to hide amongst us when the great change comes. Because, yeah, a lot of good things are coming, people, but there's some awful things we still got to get through.
Did you guys ever see that movie Cell with John Cusack?
Oh, yeah.
If that didn't scare you into reality...
That to me was a very frightening movie, especially when they're all just going around in circles. And if you recall, remember when they put cell phones down near ant piles and stuff? They would all start doing the same thing, stampeding in circles. Oh my goodness, you talk about frightening.
We are not playing games anymore with you guys.
We're just going to lay it on the table.
We're just going to tell you the way it is. People have a hard time believing some of the sketches that they're seeing in the early 13th, 14th century, where people were seeing minotaurs and centaurs. And
these were just beings that were released from labs.
They were hybrids.
Okay.
Humanoid animal hybrids.
Genetic breeding and all that stuff and playing around with genetics has been around for probably at least 1 billion years.
I mean, think about it, guys. The reptilians have been on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. You don't think they didn't have underground labs? That you didn't think they didn't take us at some point and bring us down into those labs and turn our DNA into something else? Of course
apparently
they did.
We're very malleable as far as our DNA, especially with only 2 strands. And that's why they stripped us down to 2 strands, because now they can just add on additional strands and turn you into, half spider, half human, centaur, wolfman, you name it. All of these beings exist. All of them exist, except people will not listen. They just think it's all fairy tales and hokum.
Well, I'm at the point where, okay, you believe what you want, but when you start seeing people in the street running for their lives and you see a bunch of humanoids running down the street after them with their mouths open, drooling at the sides of their mouths with sores on their faces, you're going to think twice, because these beings have been perfecting these diseases. Most of the diseases
for generations
that we have on our planet came from these genetic scientific experiments. I know that a lot of you are just going to laugh at this, but you're not going to be laughing in about another year. Do you guys remember 2 years ago when our friend Sam was talking to us? He said, you better stock up because the floods are coming, the food shortages are coming. Well, what are they doing? They're burning our crops. They're blowing up our food sources. The world is on fire. There are floods everywhere. Which part of that isn't truthful?
I got to tell you, when I walk into our back room, we literally have a pantry in our back room. And that's only part of it. And we have stored dried foods. We've got outside, even in our garage. But I'm trying to explain to people why they need to have this. So I'm trying to explain that maybe you need to start thinking about that. Start picking up some extra food. It's not going to hurt you to have a couple of months of food stockpiled away in your closet, hidden. Don't tell anyone about it. But you want to come to our house, you got to find us, and it's not going to be easy.
You need to get away from the cities. I know there are some people who are saying, well, I'm here until the end, and I'm here, I'm the light in the darkness. But when somebody's brain has been conditioned through a device or a cell phone or whatever it is that they're being conditioned through, they no longer have control of that function. They don't care if you're a light in the darkness anymore. They don't care who you are, because if they can bite you or they can
steal your
stuff. You know, I saw a guy in a video just yesterday who went to the bank, Wells Fargo Bank in California, and he was coming out of the bank, going to his car when he got mugged, and some guy took all of his money and beat him up and took his money. This is the reality of what is beginning, guys. It is happening now. And ignoring it is not going to make it go away. Facing the reality of where we're going is going to help you build that strength of character that you need. It's very important right now that you understand that we are going to go through some absolute turmoil. And you're going to need to rely on your character, your strength, your emotional balance, because there's going to be a lot of people out there who won't have it anymore.
And when they're hungry, you know, the Egyptians had this really clever thing they used to do when they were preparing tombs. They would actually take the main entrance chamber and they would smash up different types of pottery and scatter a few gems around and everything to make it look like that place had been plundered, but the actual tomb was underneath and it was concealed.
so that all the wealth was protected inside, so that the Pharaoh passing into the new world would still have all of the things that they needed to survive in the new world. We're here to tell you that it's probably going to be a good idea. You need to have a certain amount of food, water, and canned goods are great because they last virtually everywhere, and protection. You want to be prepared. And the best part about it is, okay, so if nothing happens, you have this wonderful pantry that you can go to anytime when you need something. I love it. If we're cooking, I can go in there and like, hey, do we have any more ketchup? And Victoria's like, go in the back and to the left in the back. And
I want to mention something too with the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Italy on strike and farmers taking their tractors down into the cities. If a farmer's not plowing the land, what does that mean, guys? It means there's no food growing.
And the Netherlands is like the breadbasket for half of Europe.
Yes. So most of the farmers are not growing any food right now.
And look at Sri Lanka. The shelves are already empty.
Everything's empty.
They have nothing.
So it's only a matter of time before that happens here. And I know that you're hearing, oh, don't worry about that. The America has got thousands of stock food. And I'm thinking, okay, but not everybody's going to be able to go into a city and get that food. And if you are lured into a city to get the food, does that mean you're going to be able to get out again?
Yeah, look at The Walking Dead, what they had to go through.
Exactly.
To get, like, they'd run out of something medical or whatever. They didn't have it. They had to go into the cities because that was where a lot of the stuff was still there.
Yeah. You can deny many of the things that we're saying to you. And I do notice a lot of the talking heads on YouTube are not talking about any of this. And they're just telling you about we're all going to the 5th and this is going to be great. There are some major hurdles coming before we get to that point. And as far as these drawings that you're seeing, if you don't believe that we are not being reset every 200 to 500 years, go back and listen to the interview that I did about 2 years ago with Reptilian Morpheus. And I was asking him about the drawings that I found. And he says, is that book of drawings you found? And I said, yes. So you reset us around the 15th century? And he's like, well, aren't you clever? You figured it out. So why would a reptilian lie about that? They have no reason to. And I want to warn you that right before a reset comes, they do this exact same stuff. They bring down hailstones the size of a baseball. They turn our volcanoes into fire. They flood our lands.
Red Castle.
They
Green
burn
Castle.
Everything. Yes, and the skies, guys.
And that goes all the way back to ancient Rome, by the way.
It sure does. Red Castle, Green Castle. They used to have these goblets.
Of course, the Masons updated it to a chessboard now, red or black.
Yeah.
But it used to be Red Castle, Green Castle.
It sure did. And ask yourself, why would they do Green Castle, Red Castle, and then the skies go red?
And green.
And green. Ask yourself why they're doing that. Okay, let me say this. Gaia is green. Gaia's colors are green. She is the earth. So they're divvying up our planet.
Right. Which faction are you?
Which
Do you
faction?
play on the green side or do you play on the red side?
Uh-huh.
And they'll let you know because you'll start to see this. And it's starting to happen all over the world. Look at Brazil. Red skies.
Nearly every sunset they have lately is red skies.
They like Brazil. That's where a lot of the Nazis went, by the way.
Oh, and Argentina.
Yeah, that too.
They have been having continuous red skies for, 6 months or more now. And in South Dakota a couple of weeks ago, bright green skies. That's not made up. There are plenty of people in South Dakota who can tell you they woke up to a green sky. Ask yourself something else. South Dakota was always a tribal area where many tribes lived and hunted.
Yeah, it's like our fort is here. This is our main starting point. Where's yours? Like before you play Risk, you end up with dividing up the world and you got your little pieces everywhere. Well, your red pieces are here. This is where we're starting. And this is where we're starting. Okay, let the game begin. Yeah, you remember that dream that Michael had about you and everyone else and like how like people just don't want to play the game anymore. And there's this big table of gods all sitting down looking at this big game that they're playing, sipping their elixirs and enjoying the game and thinking it's great, not understanding that you are affecting
billions of souls when you do this, okay, for those that are still souls. And unfortunately, a lot of that, they want to replace all of you, okay, with these sort of demi-human mankind, kind of like man, you know what I mean? Kind of like woman. I mean, look at what we got. There are trannies everywhere, and people don't believe it. They just don't, and you could show them the biometrics, and they're like, yeah, and big deal. They identify as a female. I'm like, yeah, God. How do you help people that think this way?
It's not so much about your fleshly body. What you've done is broke your soul contract. Now, your soul contract was made with you, your soul, before you re-entered this game. And you said, this time around, I want to be a male. And they're like, okay. But there are stipulations to your soul contract. You must live your life as that because you requested it. When you cut your soul contract out and you become something else, you have voided your contract, which means you did not live up to your agreement, correct? Any contract in our laws, if you void out your contract, what are the circumstances behind voiding out a contract?
It's real simple. There's 3 phases to a contract: the offer, the acceptance, and the consideration. Those are the 3 aspects of all contractual law. You have the offer that's made to you, they have you accepting it, and then there has to be an exchange of value, even if it's just a dollar bill or whatever you call as an exchange of value, then you have a valid contract that can be enforced. And that's how Father looks at it.
Yeah, and that's how the divine courts look at it. Well, Mr. Jones, before you became Mr. Jones on Earth again, we had a conversation with you right before you were reborn onto this game. And you said that you were going to play this role as a male. But here you stand before us and we see through your contract that you voided it out at the age 35 and you became a female. You did not fulfill your agreement. And that's the way it goes. We get our laws from the higher realms. Where do you think it all comes from? And, you know, there's a lot of people that just don't look at the spiritual aspect of this. And it's very simple if you understand that as above, so below.
And gender dysphoria is nothing to play around with. It has all kinds of negative repercussions on you. They're the highest level of suicides. And people like to play it out like, oh, that's just because people aren't being accepted. No, that's not. That's because when you realize you try to be something that you're not, eventually it messes with your mind to the point to where you can't function. And then eventually you're open to insanity. And once you're insane, other beings can come along and control you.
Yeah, it happens all the time. In our family, over the years when we've had these conversations, occasionally they come back just to thumb their noses up at us. It's just the way these beings are. They'll taunt you. And you have to understand that it's all part of your game test. Did you guys ever play snakes and ladders when you were a kid?
Yeah, we call it chutes and ladders here in America, but snakes and ladders is probably a much better description.
That was the game.
That's the game in Australia, right? Snakes and ladders?
If you got on the snake head, what happened? You had to go down the game. If you got on the ladder...
Yeah, like Jacob's ladder.
You went up the game.
Yep.
Same thing, guys. You're in a snakes and ladders game. And you got to kind of maneuver between both aspects of what's going on.
And a lot of people do not want to do the shadow work, as I've explained before, where you have to confront your darker side.
Yeah.
And you have to learn to control your darker side, because Father wants that taint of darkness. Father, Mother, God, whatever you want to refer to Father as, Mother as, okay, Father is dual aspect. Whatever way that you perceive Father is also part of the way that you are to express your reality. So that's why they want you to worship this, evil-looking goat god that is just this horrendous, evil, horrible thing that's part female, part male, and without question, effing around with kids, right? Part animal, too.
Mm-hmm. I want to mention that, too. The animal gods that they serve are also humanoid.
We are all animals, my lady.
Yeah.
Remember that quote? Yeah, I remember. That's what the Philip or whatever he was saying. That out of what's it? Legend with Tom Cruise and I mean that was a particular movie they used to torment Victoria with. Because they kind of saw Victoria as a little bit like the main Lily,
who was corrupted and seduced into becoming dark. But in the end, she ended up freeing the unicorn instead of slaying it.
Yeah.
But this big, dark, nasty being played by Tim Curry was this huge demonic-like being, and he just was telling her the truth. We are all animals, my lady, because she screamed at him and said, "You're an animal, you're horrible." We are all animals, my lady. To some degree, are we not?
And I've met some of those beings. You don't think they don't
They're
exist?
bad news.
They are very bad news, and I've met a few of them. And they love to torment humans with that kind of scare tactic. Let me tell you, they're very powerful beings. And they will try and control you in any way, shape, or form they can. So yeah, they used to represent me as Lily, who freed the unicorn. I think after a while, once you understand how this manipulation works, how they come after your soul, how they come after every aspect of who you are, they try and divide you from your higher self. And they try and maintain your control as your fleshly being. Because when they can control your fleshly being, they can disconnect you from your higher soul, which is connected to our Creator. And if they can disconnect you from our Creator, they've got you. Boy, have they got you.
They do a lot of terrible things. So with that in mind, we just wanted to have a quick little chat. We wanted you to understand the stakes that are going on here. You've got to protect your soul. You've got to protect your family if it's possible. But then some people are too far gone, and there's just nothing we can do about it. But with that in mind, we'd like to say blessings, love, and light. Thank you for tuning in again, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.